It's June 20th, 1947. World War II has just ended several years earlier. It's a new world, it's a new America, and for baseball, it's a totally different sport. In a small town in Connecticut called West Haven, a sporting stadium has opened up. That stadium is called Exhibition Stadium. Over the next several decades, it will go through name changes and be home to some of the most famous players in the baseball world, along with several other sport teams and other sporting events. When the gates opened up on June 20th, 1947, fans went and sat down in the seats, and those seats were made by old New Haven Railroad observation cars.
Today, as for more than a century, a symbol of this progressive railroad transportation is the New York, New Haven, and Hartford Railroad Company.
The New Haven Railroad at the time was one of the most historic and most used railroading lines on the East Coast, as it was in operation from 1872 to 1968. As of this time, the New Haven Railroad was really at the climax, the peak of its use and the peak of its fandom. Overall, Exhibition Stadium had a max capacity seating of 2,000 people. Down the line, not too far, Exhibition Stadium will later be renamed to the Municipal Stadium. Not too much further down that line, it would then be renamed to Quigley Stadium, where that name still stands today. It was ended up going to the Quigley Stadium name after owner and also the same person who built the stadium, Maurice P. Quigley, who built and owned the ballpark and was a local coach who sadly passed away in 1960. From the late 1940s to the very early 1970s, Quigley Stadium would be home to numerous amateur baseball leagues along with other sporting events being held there. It wasn't until 1972 when a baseball franchise called the New York Yankees decided to move their Double-A minor league affiliated team to the city of West Haven. That team was under the name the West Haven Yankees.
You had anywhere from Ron Quigley to the Bobby Cox, who went on to become Hall of Famers. Really came out of that. Off that team. It was just an amazing program. It was a ritual to go there on the weekends for my family, because we're a baseball family. So we would go there on a weekend. I can remember as clear as the day. You know, no Quigley Stadium is just a shell of what it was. You had that forest green wraparound stadium, wooden stadium, where if you sat down and you moved to the right, you get a splinter.
The West Haven Yankees would call Quigley Stadium their home stadium from 1972 to 1979. A very short-lasting time there, but it would send out a very long-lasting effect that could still be felt throughout the community, especially the baseball community in West Haven to this day. Now the West Haven Yankees are fully moved in to the new town. They're used to practicing in the stadium. Here comes opening night. To a stadium with a capacity of 2,000 people, over 4,000 spectators showed up to watch the first pitch at Quigley. Overall in the 1972 season, a total of 102,537 people would show up in attendance, with 1,465 being the average per game. The 1972 season would feature a win-loss record of 84-56, with manager Bobby Cox at the helm. Bobby Cox would just have this be one season out of a total of 35 that he would manage in his career, where he would have a 29-58, 23-86 win-loss record and would end up being a Hall of Fame manager with the Atlanta Braves. 1973 came. West Haven had a new manager come in with the new year. That manager being Doc Edwards, as just after one season, Bobby Cox was out. Despite his 20-plus game above 500 winning record of 84-56, Doc Edwards would replace him. In the 1973 season, West Haven would have a winning record in front of a total attendance of over 75,000 people, but their record diminished from the season prior as they went 72-66. 1974 featured the first losing record for the team. In fact, it's going to be the worst record for the West Haven Yankees franchise history, as they fell to a miserable 58-79. After 2 seasons, Doc Edwards was thrown out of West Haven with a 130-145 win-loss record with West Haven. Despite that, those 2 seasons would just be 2 of 34 that he would manage between minor league ball and big league ball. He had an 1877 and 1933 win-loss record. 1975 would be a year met with optimism from the West Haven Yankee fans. For the players, it was a proving year, as the likes of Buck Showalter, Dave Rocchetti, and Mike Heath played there. 1975 would be met with once again a new manager. That manager under the name Pete Ward, as this would just be one of 8 total seasons he would manage in his career, all of them being in minor leagues. 1975 featured a slightly better year for the West Haven Yankees. A 66-71 record in front of an average attendance of 388 people gave West Haven once again a losing season, their second losing season in franchise history, and their second losing season in a row. Despite that, Ward was brought back for the 1976 season, where he would bring the West Haven Yankees to an 80-win season, an 80-59 record in front of an average attendance of 408 meant West Haven was once again back. Despite that and Pete Ward's 146-130 record with West Haven, he would no longer be manager after the 1976 season. With Pete Ward out, that meant the manager position had to be filled once again. West Haven went to Mike Ferraro to be the 1977 manager. West Haven kept their winning ways. With an 84-54 win-loss record, they were playoff bound once again. Despite making the playoffs, Mike Ferraro would only manage the West Haven Yankees for that lone season. This would just be one of 7 seasons he would manage in his 407-319 win-loss managerial career. The New Year's Eve ball has dropped in New York. It's a new year, but for the West Haven Yankees, it's the same problem. In the same spot as last year, they are in desperate need of a new manager for the 1978 baseball season. With that, they looked and chose Stump Morrill as the next manager of the Yankees. At this point, West Haven was in a true upward trend. Back-to-back winning seasons of 80 games or more featured the home crowd coming back, with 1977 total attendance numbers being just above 41,000, averaging about 595 per game. 1978 stayed that. West Haven, down from their 86-win season just a season prior, they went 82-57 in front of a total of attendance of 46,048 spectators. With that said, Stump, well, he was not stopped by the Yankees as they gave him another year as the Yankees manager. And 1979 was a truly special season for him as the West Haven Yankees manager. Winning the Eastern League Manager of the Year in 1979, West Haven would go 83-56 in front of an average attendance of over 1,000, leading a total of attendance just above 71,000. West Haven undoubtedly has been on the map for several years, but it looked to only get better from this point on. Little would fans and players know that 1979 would be the final year that the Yankees would play with Quigley being their home stadium. At the end of 1979, West Haven looked like it could be a true dynasty in minor league baseball. As fast as it came, it went out even faster, as securing the rights to the West Haven Yankees was new owner David R. Goldstein. At this point, the West Haven Yankees were 4-time Eastern League champions. But at this point, it did not matter to Goldstein. Signing an affiliation with the Oakland Athletics, the West Haven Yankees would relocate to Lynn, Massachusetts, becoming the Lynn Sailors, as the New York Yankees AA team moved to being the Nashville Sounds in Nashville, Tennessee, with West Haven's franchise being the Lynn Sailors. The Oakland Athletics farm system was mirrored in true decrepitude at this point from the dying days of the Charlie O. Finley regime. They were in need of desperate change, from Single A all the way to Triple A, and with the New York Yankees selling the team to the Oakland A's, well, that change came in Double A, as just several miles down the road in Waterbury, there was the Waterbury A's. Coming over to West Haven and Quigley Stadium, it would be renamed the West Haven Whitecaps. The name Whitecaps coming from the white hats that the players would wear during games. Under manager Ed Nuttall, who had a 79-91 record with the Waterbury A's, he would bring West Haven to the worst season yet at this point in 1980, starting a new decade off the losing way. 47-92, as the Whitecaps plated the fewest runners in the league, being outscored 721 to 512. They drew in also the fewest fans in the league, drawing in just above 30,000. They were well over 24,000 less than the next team in front of them when it came to fan attendance. 1980 saw West Haven as the second worst minor league team throughout all the classes. With their 47-92 record, they were only better than the Rocky Mountain Pines, who were 24-14 in the Single A Carolina League. Change was needed, and change was in a way coming. Dave Goldstein dropped the Whitecap name and changed it to the West Haven A's for the 1981 season. 1981 saw a winning season, the first winning season in Quigley, the first winning season for the West Haven A's under that name. 71-67, just above 500, as the team was good, but change was still needed, as also in the 1981 season, it was Bob Diddler who came in to manage the 1981 season and would also manage a total of 16 seasons, a minor league managerial pro, as he never touched the major league market. He would have an 847 and 796 record, giving West Haven a 157 and a 121 win-loss record, leading in 1982 the team to both the first and second half titles and winning the Eastern League Championship against the Lynn Sailors. The new franchise comprised of the old West Haven Yankees franchise. Revenge there was taken. Despite winning the championship in 1982, that's all she wrote for minor league baseball inside of the famous Quigley Stadium, as they would move to Albany, New York, becoming the Albany A's in 1983. West Haven went out the highest way possible, as champions. If you had to define Quigley Stadium in one word, what would that word be?
Memorable.
After the Oakland Athletics left West Haven after that championship season, Quigley Stadium would then become home to several college teams, along with other sporting events through the year, along with football games, boxing matches, and as of right now, high school baseball for the Notre Dame West Haven baseball team and amateur baseball for the West Haven Twilight League, which currently sits as one of the oldest running amateur baseball leagues in not only Connecticut, but also in America.
For 20 years, I was West Haven's American Legion coach, and for the first 10 years, that was our home. We'd have to work time out with the Twilight League because that was their home for many years. I mean, it's one of the oldest amateur baseball program. That was their home, West Haven Twilight League. We had to work out time because there was no other field that we could use for the high schools, what the American Legion is the high school summer baseball program. We didn't have another field to use, so we'd have to find some time in between league. I mean, we played a 40-game schedule. It was great years. So let's go into some history regarding Quigley Stadium when Notre Dame was using it in 1966. I don't know, many West Havens don't know this fact. West Haven played Notre Dame not once, but twice in that one season. It was the famous drop pass or the bounce pass, I think that's what they call it, where ball was thrown in the corner of the end zone late in the game when Notre Dame playing West Haven. The guy caught it and caught it on a bounce, and the referees couldn't see it because the lighting was so bad at Quigley Stadium. They called it a touchdown after review and the local writers saying that it did bounce pass. CIAC at the time ordered Notre Dame to play West Haven again. So that's the only time in history where West Haven had to play another team again in the regular season.
Quigley Stadium is now 75 years old. In those 75 years, it has seen the community grow with it and also grow around it, as its home is now around the suburbs and high-rise apartment buildings, with many people driving by it every day, not even knowing that there's a baseball stadium there behind all those big buildings. If you had to tell someone who did not know what Quigley Stadium was, how would you describe it to them?
It was Field of Dreams.